Welcome back to This Day in Scottish History. I'm your host, Colin MacDonald. Today, we turn back the pages to the year 664, when Saint Boisel, the revered prior of Melrose Abbey, passed away. His name might not be as widely known as some other figures in Scottish history, but his influence echoes through time, particularly in his impact on one of the most venerated saints of Northumbria and Scotland, Saint Cuthbert. And if you're curious about other fascinating events that happened on this day in history, be sure to check out my blog at https://bagtownclans.com/thisday. The link will be in the description. In the 7th century, Scotland and Northumbria were lands deeply shaped by faith. Christianity was still spreading, carried by dedicated monks and priests who lived austere, disciplined lives in remote monastic communities. Among these early centres of devotion, Melrose Abbey held a special place. It was not the great stone abbey that would later be built in the 12th century, but rather a simple wooden structure on the banks of the River Tweed, following the austere traditions of the Celtic Church. Boisel was the second prior of this early monastery, following in the footsteps of St. Aidan, the missionary bishop who had been instrumental in converting the Northumbrians to Christianity. Boisel was not a man of political power or military might. His influence lay in his wisdom, humility, and dedication to spiritual learning. He was deeply respected by his fellow monks, sought after for guidance, and known for his prophetic insight. One of Boisel's greatest contributions to history was his mentorship of a young novice named Cuthbert. Legend tells us that when Cuthbert first arrived at Melrose, Boisel immediately recognised his potential, telling his fellow monks that this young man would go on to achieve great things. Under Boisel's instruction, Cuthbert embraced the monastic life, dedicating himself to prayer, study, and acts of charity. His training at Melrose would set him on the path to becoming one of the most beloved saints of the medieval British Isles. But Boisel was not just a teacher, he was a healer known for his acts of kindness and his ability to comfort the sick. It is said that he had a gift of prophecy, foreseeing both his own death and the destiny of his pupil Cuthbert. When the plague swept through the monastery in the early 660s, Boisel was one of its victims. Knowing his time was short, he used his final days to pass on his wisdom to Cuthbert, encouraging him to continue his mission of faith. After Boisel's passing, Cuthbert did indeed rise to prominence, becoming the prior of Lindisfarne, a hermit, and eventually a saint. His legacy outshone that of his teacher, but Boisel was never forgotten. The village of St. Boswells in the Scottish borders still bears his name, a quiet tribute to the humble monk whose life of devotion shaped one of the greatest figures in Scotland's religious history. Today, little remains of the early Melrose Abbey where Boisel once walked, but his story endures. He represents the quiet strength of faith in Scotland's early history, the power of mentorship, and the idea that true influence is not measured in wealth or conquest, but in the lives we touch and the wisdom we share. Thank you for joining me today on This Day in Scottish History. I hope you've enjoyed this journey in Scotland's early monastic past. Don't forget to check out my blog for more historical events at https://bagtownclans.com/thisday. Tune in tomorrow for another tale from Scotland's rich and fascinating history. I am Colin MacDonald. Haste you back.